Hey, this is Mick from Nulf News. Today I'm going to show you how to make a basic level with Dedit. Now I'm assuming you already know how to open your project, so I've already gone and done that. In this tutorial, I'm going to try to keep it real simple terms and not use a lot of technical terms for you. Try to keep it real simple and basic. Go ahead and click your Worlds tab and your Worlds folder. You will only have two folders here. One will be called Prefab and one will be called Worlds. All you need to do is click your Worlds folder and then click your New Worlds button. Go ahead and enter a name of the new world that you're going to do. I'm going to name mine Basic. That's because I'm showing you the basics of how to get started. And go ahead and click OK. After you click OK, you're going to notice you got 4 new views. Your views are your perspective view, your top view, your left view, and your front view. You'll be using these to design whatever world that you're going to be designing or level. One of the most important things you got to add to a level right away is its world's properties. So go ahead and right click into any one of the windows and add object. And go roll down the list until you find world properties and go ahead and highlight it and click OK. I do this right away because it's one of the most important things you need to add to the level. If you go ahead and click nodes, this will display everything that's in the level from every brush, object, that'll be in one giant list. We only have one object in the world, which is world properties right now, and you notice that there's a little check marks in next to a box. Go ahead and click its properties. There's only a couple buttons in here that you really need to concern yourself with, and one is far Z. It's set at 100,000 units right now, which is the actual distance that the player can see. That's how far the player will draw in the game. If you have lag or you have a really low frames per second in the level, a good rule of thumb to do is to drop this number a little bit, and that won't take away from the viewing a little bit, but if you mix it up with Fog or in a couple other things, and I can show you in some more advanced tutorials that this will really mix it up really nice and also increase your frames per second when you drop this number. The other item that you need to keep on top of is your fog info. This is what you can mix with your far Z. Right now it says fog is enabled. This is by default and it says true. Right now the color is a gray, and the near fog starts at 1 unit next to you, and the far Z is a 5,000. At 5,000 units away from you, that fog is thick enough where you can't see it at all. If you set your far Z for your drawing distance, that will be 5. If you set for 5,000, you can't see beyond this distance. And for people who like to play multiplayer with their fog off so they can be a super sniper, this will kind of slow them down a little bit. Alright, I'm going to help you guys get a little familiarized with the movement controls. Your movement controls consist of your I key on your keyboard and your O key and your mouse buttons. If you use your O mouse button in your perspective view and just move around, you notice you just kind of pan around, look around. If you use your I key, you slide along the plane. If you hold the right mouse button and the I key at the same time, you slide up and down. In a combination of your left mouse button, you can also make it go faster, or just slide along automatically. But I'm going to let you guys play with that one. You can get used to it on your own time. You can go ahead and use the same keys for your O key and move your mouse up, and then you can see more of your work area. You can see what your projects are. These grid lines here measure in units. Right now they're set at 64 units right here on this window where I'm pointing to. And it'll also have the details and information on each window, perspective, top, whatever you're looking at on the very bottom. It'll read it out down here. And also tell your position. And when it says not available, that's because you're moving along that plane. Next thing you need to know is your crosshair. This green crosshair can be moved around on its plane by holding the X key and the mouse at the same time. And you hold the X down and you just move your crosshair around. That's good for working your project when you have a wall somewhere else and this is your starting point. So, enough of that technical stuff. Let's get down to business. Alright, our world needs a floor. So go ahead and open your Textures tab, and go ahead and dig open into your Textures folder, open its directory, and you can dig around. They've got glass, and they've got lights, and linoleum, and linoleum makes a good floor texture, so let's go see what they got. Alright, right there. Use your spacebar to create a brush. A brush is the actual wall object or floor object that you're going to create. That's another word to use for brush. So use your spacebar, and go ahead and click along the points. And it'll ask you your thickness, and some 64 units is what it's set for, so we'll go ahead and set it for that. Go ahead and click OK. Now from the perspective view, you can see that we've got a 3D brush right now. Looks like a floor. Now I see a lot of the new questions, people asking, how tall are the players? Well, Kane Archer and units, it measures at about 97 units tall. And some characters are a little taller, some characters are a little shorter. A good rule of thumb is to keep a roof where a player can't jump at 128 units high. So these units are set for 64, so that's 128, and there's 256 units above them. So that's a good rule of thumb how to start making a wall. Go ahead and pick a wall texture. There, I just picked a metal texture, so I'm going to go ahead, and in this view, I move my green crosshair up to that where I'm going to draw the wall. And I'm going to draw it from the top side. So I'm going to use my spacebar and draw 4 walls. Now it says asking your thickness. Now you know you moved 256 units above the floor where you are. So you can go ahead and enter that number into that. And go ahead and click OK. I'm going to pan out here a little bit, and now you can see the wall that I just drew. I'm going to go ahead and do that again. Now you don't like to cross over brushes. It's not a very good thing to do, because then you get texture clipping, and it looks not quite right. So I'll answer another one. For those of you who like to take shortcuts, which would be me, go ahead and in your perspective view, you can click on the certain brushes that you're working on. Go ahead and click the first one I did. And I'm going to use the copy command. Right now I have it highlighted. Go ahead and hit copy. And use your green crosshair and your X key and to move it. And go ahead and move it along the same plane, but over to where you need to make another wall. Go ahead and hit paste. Oh, isn't that beautiful? Go ahead and make your next one. To finish your 4-sided wall. I use a shortcut command. I use Control plus C at the same time and Control V to paste. I use the shortcut commands. Now you have a floor and 4 walls. Of course, now you need a ceiling. So go ahead and find yourself another texture and make a ceiling. Now I'm going to move my crosshair about 64 units above where I'm working again. And again, once again, I'm going to use a top view to draw this. A spacebar. Notice I'm covering the whole surface. Go ahead and enter 64 units. Enter. And now we've got a top on our world. To unmark that, or to not select it like it's highlighted right now, the roof, go ahead and hit the U key on your keyboard. That will unmark it. And use your movement commands and go ahead and put yourself inside the world to see what you've done. There's 4-sided walls. Alright, schematics. Go ahead and use your marker and put it inside the level. I put mine in the corner here. I'm going to add a light in that corner. Go ahead and right click in any window and say Add Object. In your list, you have a bunch of objects that you can use, but all we need is a light. Go ahead and click Light and click OK. Notice the bluish circle around that object now, all across the level. I can even back out and see it here. That is the plane and where the light goes. If you click into its properties, this has its own set of properties. Right now the light radius is at 300 and the color is bright white. The bright scale is 1. Setting the bright scale for 10 is extremely bright and very white. Setting it for fractions, like 0.6, would be just fine. It looks a little darker, but it looks nice. But 1.0 is by default what the light should be. You can also change the radius to whatever you want to. And see it got bigger, or you can make it smaller. As you go along working on this project, it's probably a good idea to save this, just because they list the edit as a beta version, and sometimes crashes do happen, so go ahead and save your project as you go along. Now, as long as we're on the lighting subject, here's a good thing to do for multiplayer. When there's areas where there isn't light and you don't have to put a bunch of light objects within the level, go ahead and click World and World Info. In this, you can also set your master palette. So go ahead and type in this window, ambient light, with a space, and enter any number that are usually the same. That will keep it white. It uses the grid scale of 255. If you enter 255 3 times, it's going to be extremely, extremely bright. I usually set mine for about 90 or to 100. So go ahead, 90, space, 90, space, 90. And go ahead and click OK. Now your world will have a solid light all throughout the level. It won't be extremely bright, but where areas where you want more light, you add the light object. But this makes it so the level isn't completely dark in areas where there is no light. Next thing is, if you're doing a multiplayer level, you're going to need starting points. You can go ahead and add these. It doesn't really matter how high above the ground, but I usually keep mine at about 256 units or 128 units, somewhere between there above the ground. Go ahead and move your green crosshair around until you find a spot where you want to add your starting point. And the same thing, you go right click and add object. You want to add a game starting point and click OK. Now the options, I'm already clicked in the world's properties tab, or the objects properties tab, I'm sorry, and you want to tell it what kind of game type. If you're making a Harm versus Unity match, this is what you type in. You click select Harm versus Unity. Unless you're doing deathmatch, then you go ahead and click deathmatch, which I'm making a deathmatch level. And the rest of this you can just leave. For when you are making a Harm versus Unity level, you have to choose Team 1 or Team 2 for starting points. So you can not spawning anywhere, you're spawning on the side of your team. Team 1 is the Unity team, and Team 2 is Harm. So when you're coming along with that, I'll show you in a more advanced tutorial how to do a Harm versus Unity map. So but that's the basics on that one. Make sure you leave it at any team for deathmatch though. Okay, now we're done. The next thing we have to do is we can't play it yet. It's still in called the ED format. To be able to be played in NULF, you have to convert it to a DEP, which is compiling it. So go ahead and click World and process the level. Now in these tabs, we have a bunch of boxes that we can check. I'm going to show you 2 ways to do this. Our import geometry is grayed out because this is the first time that we're compiling this level. So that one will always be checked in import texture flags because you're bringing in the textures. Apply lighting. That's what you need to check for, just so you can at least get lighting in the level for testing it. And full optimization with facts and proximization will need to be checked for your first test. And this is a good rule of thumb. Now when you added that light in there, you're going to need shadows. Compiling lights takes a long time. And for every light it adds, whatever objects or wall it hits, it adds extra time to the compiling. Apply lighting is a fast way to do it. So if you want to test lights, it will take longer to process, but go ahead and click it. When you're all done with the level, you're totally done, completed, ready to send it out for downloading, This is what you should check. You should also check on ignore hidden, because if you have stuff outside your world that can't be seen, it will get rid of it. Fix your T-junctions, shadows, Lamberton lights, and uncheck your fast approximation. That'll make sure the level is fully done. Now this bar over here is a frames per second saver. You might be testing your level and it has really crappy frame rates. Well, what the deal is here, if you crank this bar up, it'll take a lot longer to process, but it'll take away polys that are in the level to make the game run faster. So in your final process, you want to crank this bar all the way, well, almost all the way up. If you crank it all the way up, sometimes it'll well stall out. I never had it happen, and 1 notch or 2 notches down. So that's a good rule of thumb for your final process. So I hope I helped you in getting started in your basics for Knowing This Forever. This is Mick with NoFNews.com.